Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dr. Cammy and Karen Go Keto, where we're here with session 5 with Mike Collins, our sugar-free man and the creator of the Quit Sugar Summit. Wonderful things that he's been doing with all kinds of helping people get off of sugar. And we are on a session where we're going to be continuing to discuss my ability to get off of sugar and to really eliminate binge eating in my life. And one of the ways that I tried to do to help do that was start a GLP-1 agonist on December 8th. So I've had 2 injections of Zepbound at 2.5 milligrams. And
Cammy, you just said December 8th. You want to correct that?
I'm sorry, it was March 8th. I don't want to be in the winter. Those poor people in the East are still cold enough. They don't want to be sitting in there more months. Yeah, it was March 8th. And so I think that it's been helping me. I don't know if it's placebo effect or if it's not, to work more on what's happening in my life as far as how I think and feel about things. I did see Jeff the other day to weigh in, and my weight was the same. So at least I'm not gaining weight on Carnivore still. And we will see how that goes in the next couple of weeks. So we are here talking about how I think about things and feel about things and about the GLP-1 agonist. And Mike, I don't know if you want to go ahead and jump on in about how we were just talking before we were recording about how you feel with it and what it does to the brain.
Yeah, no, thanks. I think it was literally one of the breakthroughs of the last session. If you guys haven't seen it, please go back and watch it. You know, Cammy's been so brave in just laying it all on the table. Like it's like going to therapy or putting it on YouTube kind of thing. It's amazing. But she's started to take some of the GLP-1 stuff. You know, again, the disclaimer from the last one, Cammy is an MD and she can take this stuff herself, and she's taking a little bit less than you would find in a pen and stuff. But what we discussed and what we ended up discussing is that there's been a lot of research and a lot of claims starting to come out after a couple of years of this stuff being in the market, is that people have been stopping drinking less, or quitting or not wanting to drink at all, that had maybe a drinking problem, the same with the gambling problems, other sexual stuff. And so, you know, the basis of our work and the basis of our work up to the introduction of these GLP-1s with Cammy has been trying to figure out what we were, what we do, what we are self-soothing, that we need sugar unconsciously to self-soothe. And that's what other drugs do. That's what alcohol does. That's what gambling does. These are the things that instead of dealing with life's issues and problems and old stuff and trauma and whatever, we use this to numb out for a little while. That's where the kind of emotional eating construct comes from, although they had some of it wrong. But the conclusion, I don't know if it was a conclusion, but the kind of topic that we brought up was this idea that the GLP-1s are acting and working on the brain's reward chemicals, just like sugar, just like alcohol, just like any drug, and that they are stopping people from needing to self-soothe in that way. Now, of course, there's all the body implications or the body manifestations of frozen stomach and different stuff, and actually making you not as hungry and not want to eat. So people are focused on that weight loss piece, that body piece. Whereas in our program, the same thing, you know, people are focused on their weight mostly, and their fatty liver and their type 2. And they're not thinking about what the true transformational process requires, which is this understanding that we are self-soothing with whatever the thing we're ingesting, right? We're acting on our brain reward chemicals and all other body reward chemicals with the substances or substance or substances. So I think that's kind of where we left off. And as a quick recap, and really just as we extrapolate this forward into the next few years with the advent and popularity of the GLP-1s, we're in a place where somebody better bring this discussion up. Or, you know, we also discussed that there's a recent survey just came out just a couple days before we talked last week, that most people, although this is supposed to be a lifetime drug, stop after 2 years because they're not hungry, they don't feel right, and they begin to gain weight back. So similar to what we have dealt with many, many years, which is bariatric surgery, where people hack the surgery and learn how to drink their sugar, you know, the same thing applies. This is not a long-term fix. This is not a holistic fix. A little bit of a, I don't know, workaround, a pharmacological workaround that may not go the long terms. And, obviously a lot of you guys know that I'm a little bit more focused on the holistic and seeing that the human body and brain and emotional life can return to perfectly normal health and optimization without any of these interventions.
All right. So go ahead,
Well,
Karen.
so in what you're saying, Mike, and I haven't seen any of the stuff about the other addictions that are being affected by the GLP-1 agonist, but I do know that they don't know how they work, right? They don't know the actual mechanism of why it works, and they do know that it does affect the reward system. So it'll be interesting to see if long-term research shows, do the people who are reducing alcohol addiction or gambling addiction or sexual addiction or shopping addiction that are on these, are they like the eaters that go back? Like, are they going to, just like you say, people start to gain weight,
Good question.
right?
Yeah.
Is it the physicality of it all? Is it the fact that your stomach is slowed and you're not feeling it, and that your gut biome has changed completely, that it so changes your brain that whatever your gut is like overreacting or something, that's what's causing the need for the soothing all the time? And to me, the more I follow carnivore, the more I feel like it is so clear to me that we are just not meant to eat plants. And I follow Dr. Chafee and Dr. Kiltz. And, if you take a human being back 100,000 years ago, do we even know if they worried about getting their food? Maybe food was just abundant enough that they laid around for a couple of days and said, I'm getting hungry. I'll go get me a woolly mammoth. Or, or was it planned? Obviously, they've got cave painting, so it was a big deal. But what else do they have to worry about other than taking care of their children, not having their children fall into lakes and rivers and drown and stuff like that, and getting food? And if you take it back to like the babies that are born to prehistoric man, they just get latched onto the breast right away. So they're taken care of for food. So all you got to do is get the food for the rest of the people. And clearly no 100,000-year-old man is going to go, oh, let me go collect a bunch of eucalyptus leaves and start eating those, right? And see when I get full. And I just wonder if the carnivore, when you start, and I think the good thing about Cammy's plan is that she is trying to do this for a short term and continue to eat carnivore, so that she's still going to be eating carnivore once she gets off of it.
Yep.
Mike?
Yeah, you created or brought up so many of the questions that I agree with most. Is that, if you look at this evolutionarily, everything you said is correct. I think that the break evolutionary biology back in the day, if you listen to, like, he just passed away, Dr. McDougall, and some of the raw foodists and the fruitarians, they believe that when we started to eat tubers and when we started to eat, when we started to cook them, that the brain developed more. And I personally believe it's when we did that fork and we started eating more and larger animals. I think it's probably very possible that we did eat plants before that, or one incarnation of our species did eat plants before that. But it's very clear, like you said, from the paintings that, we did eat, and just myself personally, and everybody that I've ever seen and paid attention to, is that, there's more of a satiation, there's less cravings, there's mental clarity. And I think when we're looking at the mental clarity part, the development of the brain happened when we, started eating more animal products. They're always saying this thing, well, the gorilla's freaking 500, 400 pounds and all he eats is plants, right? And bonobos share 98% of our DNA, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's not true, first of all, because they do eat meat occasionally, chimps and bonobos. But at the end of the day, I think the brain did begin to develop, and now we're in a situation where, we are playing with our brain via substances, those being plants and carbohydrates and processed carbohydrates, which are worse. And this has always been about the brain and the emotional life. It's never really been about, the fatty liver or the weight or the diabetes. It's always been the behavioral change part about it. It's always been about the brain and the emotions.
So, Mike, just to, and I'm sorry because I'm kind of taking you back earlier to your conversation about the about the gorillas. I learned this at the Ancestral Health Symposium.
Okay.
Their digestive tract is totally different from humans. And so even though they eat leaves and vegetables, or I think it's mainly leaves, they eat certain leaves from certain things, they break it down to fatty acids. And that's what gives them their weight.
Yeah. We can't do that. Right.
I am happy to eat the carnivore lifestyle. I know that it's the right one for me, right? And I know that I would like to share it and have everybody in this whole world adopt it, but if they don't, they don't. But I do think when you talk about, and there will be a lot more research when it comes out about the brain, because I just listened to somebody today, Chris Palmer.
Yeah. Love it.
Who is at Harvard, and he's a psychiatrist and psychologist along with Georgia Ede. They've both written books about the brain and sugar and ultra processed foods and the connection to autism, and people connect it to Alzheimer's. There's just nothing that doesn't get better when you get rid of the sugar. You get rid of anything that turns into sugar, and you stick to the carnivore way of eating. You see that in how you, I mean, it just takes days for most people to get the clarity once they stop eating the sugar and eat the meat. I mean, you can't just say, I'm not eating sugar and then just eat a bunch of chicken. And I'm telling you, they say about those ancient tubers, those were really thick and had to be cooked really long. Modern man was not doing that. You're just going to be grabbing easier game than you're going to be eating a tuber.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, I think the argument of the century is this, vegans and carnivores or whatever. But I think what you're saying, and I think Cammy would agree, is that, like, this is about the recovery of Cammy's beautiful brain, and this cravings, the binge eating, the going off plan is all about the remyelination of the brain, which requires the healthy fats that you're describing. And, there is a gap between it. And the question is, in a microdosing world, which I'm a little, again, I'm a fan of Suboxone. Some people could die if they don't get off the opioids. They could get some fentanyl and die, so that keeps them alive long enough. So there is sometimes a bridge that can work, and I understand the rationale. And again, I'm not talking about the full dose pen. I'm talking about the microdosing. And so I guess that's where we are. We're trying to figure this out. Is this a good solution without just me being a old school abstinence person? Because sometimes old school abstinence is really difficult for some people because they have so much biochemical repair needed in their brain, right? That's not, yeah. So, Cammy, what do you think of all this?
I mean, that's how I'm feeling about it for me. I'm feeling like it's a bridge for me to get from binging on carbs to not binging on carbs, and to also get new carnivore to older carnivore to more days on carnivore, because I just started on carnivore. It's been like maybe December, January, February. It's been like maybe a few months at the most, kind of dabbling and then getting more and more and more into it. And it's easier now on the Zepbound for me to be eating strict carnivore. And I do have to say that my diet has been going well, and I'm not really hungry to eat anything. I never really craved carnivore, but I never really did before being on a GL1P agonist either. I just would wait till I got hungry and then I would just eat carnivore. But so the diet part of it is all working well, and we'll see what that does on the scale. I mean, for me, the scale for me is something I'd like to see go down. But the other thing, the most important thing to me is that I learn how to think and feel differently and process my addictive mind and my addictive brain in a way that creates healthier living with the help of the GL1P agonist. And then as I taper off of it, to continue to have those healthier habits around thinking and feeling about things, and how I put my words into the world as whether or not I'm an addict or not an addict, and how I see things and how I live my life in the future, not based on the past and all the stories that I've created in the past, which is how I tend to live my life now, but looking at where I am now and what I'm going to be able to do in the future that could be different.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. I do really believe that this experiment could do the world a great service to understand. Like, there was a really big pushback on methadone. I'm not a fan of methadone, but Suboxone, these kind of bridge chemicals to help drug addicts get off this stuff. It's still not even there's still kind of a divided group of who thinks it's good and who doesn't. But yeah, I mean, I like that you're focused more on your stories, that you're focused more on, healing maybe false stories or exaggerated stories or just old stories that you've told yourself that are probably not true anymore about worthiness and weight and acceptance and all these kind of things. So I think the combination could work. And obviously for me, the faster that you can use the transition, it's so weird because I've been hesitating. I was really excited to hear the way Karen was speaking and a lot of other people now, but I am on the verge of saying, carnivore can cure sugar addiction. Like that's the biochemistry of the brain can be repaired very quickly. And even in tough circumstances like your own or others, if you can withstand it's a kind of an extended withdrawal almost, like the relapses back to binge eating or what have you. Like I said, I'm very close to this. I don't know what my hesitation is, to be honest with you. Probably because my first coach was a vegetarian and she succeeded, and her mother owned a bakery and is still doing that. And that I ate vegetarian for many years and never was attracted to flour, sugar, or caffeine. Health-wise, I deteriorated over a 20-year period. I deteriorated my bone density. Um, you know, there's just a lot of things that frailty. I couldn't gain weight. Now I'm an old guy and I'm gaining weight and muscle at the gym. I'm Arnold Schwarzenegger yet, but I tried so hard back then and I couldn't. So yeah, I do see that this is a positive development, but we do have to keep an eye on it. And you're a scientist and a doctor, and you got to write all this down. I mean, every date, every dose, every feeling, every result, every binge, write it all down, you know what I mean? So that we can help others with this.
Cammy, are you feeling any like nausea or anything right now? I mean, since you've taken it?
No.
I've heard that the microdosers don't.
Well, I'm not on a really small dose. I'm on 2.5 milligrams, which I think might be the smallest pen that they do.
Okay.
But the idea is that you start at 2.5 and then you bump up from there to 5 to 7.5. And I don't want to do that. My idea right now is to stay on 2.5 for the first 4 weeks and then see what happens there. But no, I'm not nauseous. I am tired, but I've had a cold, so I don't know what's going on with all of that. I am feeling some fatigue. I'm not nauseous, and I just don't really feel like eating. But when I was on the carnivore diet, it was hard for me. I didn't crave carnivore. I still craved sugar, and I'm not craving sugar at all.
Okay. Again, who knows the answer to is the GLP-1 working on the brain, or is it working on freezing your stomach so you lose weight? You know what I mean?
But, it's interesting because I'm just going to share that I went yesterday to a store and I bought somebody some coconut chocolate bars that I'm going to give to them as a gift tomorrow. And when I got in the car, my voice started going off. Oh, look, you have this in the car. Oh, the drama, the excitement. And, oh, you could eat that and it would taste so good and blah, 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 blah. And I just decided that that's not what I was going to do. And I thought, no, I can think differently about this in the future. And so I think a lot of the like salivating over it or, feeling hungry in my stomach and all of the physical parts that would come with thinking like that when I had these things in the car or at the house are gone. So I don't have those parts to contend with. And I just have to contend with what's going on in my head, which is like, no, you're not going to eat those because that's not what you're up to. And, the other thing too is that there's some more skin in the game because I'm paying money for this medication, and it's costing me money. And I'm really up to trying to, to change how I think and feel about things coming out of this.
So, Cammy, is sugar poison?
Yes.
Then why are you giving your friend sugar?
She asked the question I was going to ask, but that makes two of us.
To me, that's the biggest issue in the United States right now.
And I want to say, because I want to fit in, because I want to be like everyone else and I should just throw it in the trash. And after this conversation, I probably will, because I
just answered the question. I mean, the question is, why would you give poison to your friend? Really? Because you want to fit in? I don't think so.
You talked about the stories you tell and the actions that you do, how you do something, how you do everything. You got to have whoever this friend is has to start to think of you as not a sugar person. They're never going to get another sugar gift from you.
Oh, I see what you're saying. If I'm not a sugar person, I won't bring them sugar.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that's an integrity issue, right? You want to.
Yeah.
Because here's the question: why? I mean, the question really that needs to be answered is why would I do that? I mean, you could take the rat poison that's under your sink and give that to your friend.
Okay, so when I went there to buy it, there were all these different options to buy, and I wanted nuts. I wanted to buy him some nuts because I heard he's a healthy guy. I heard he eats pretty healthy. This is a guy who's going to fix my car for me from a friend that I know. I've never met him yet. But I heard that he was a healthy guy and that he rides bikes. So I went to Dick's to get him a gift card there. And I bought him a sweat towel thing. And I was looking for nuts for something to eat, like a snack. And I looked and looked and looked, and they didn't have nuts. And so then I was thinking, well, I want this guy to like me. I want to be loved and accepted by this guy. This is probably what was going on. So I'll almost like poison him. I mean, I wasn't obviously thinking that, but I was thinking, I'll give him something sweet that he will like that will maybe make him like me. I don't know. It's crazy stuff, but you're right. It shouldn't be something I do.
I think you nailed it. Like, I wanted to fit in is the statement that you had before and the second time. And that's logical and it's common. It's not like it's unusual. And, you wanted to be like with the cool kids or whatever these are just old behaviors that keep resurfacing that we keep having to refute and like move back and forget about. So yeah, I mean,
but I do have them in the house until I go throw them away after this video in the dumpster where I won't dig them out.
There you go.
But
Good job.
But I'm not thinking about eating them or lamenting on it because that conversation about eating it lasted in the car for about 3 minutes. And then I made the decision not to do that. And so then once I made the decision not to do that, it hasn't come back again. And like I can see them sitting over there. Now I think that that's what this medication is helping me with. And that's my fear about how it wouldn't help me in the future. When I go off of it, if I have something in the house, which hopefully I won't because I'm making better choices from here on out. And it's very, very rare for me to have something in the house that I'm not supposed to, that I'm not eating and that's poison. But that's my fear is that my hope is that the bridge will help me change the behavior over the few months that I'm on it and the thinking. It'll be interesting to see and the way I communicate to myself and others in the world. And then as I pan off of it, as I withdraw off of it, see what happens. Mm-hmm. And, my hope is that all those different ways of being will stick. And then I'll just have to deal with the physicalness of it.
I like it. I mean, but we have to, and I would put this in the category of the exercise and the food plan. I don't want to get you dragged down into the things that you need that are not the emotional reconfiguring of how you speak to yourself internally, how you feel about things, the worthiness issues, the fitting in issues. All these issues are what we soothed for decades with sugar. We just did it unconsciously. We just did it like it's free almost. It's ubiquitous. You can get it anytime, and there's no, and we, anybody that abused it knew. But like these are the important issues, and I want to stay focused on those things. I like the experiment. I got no issues with the experiment. Like I said, I was an abstinence guy for many years till my friends started dying of opioid overdoses, and Suboxone helped them. Some of them lived. And I think the people who are experimenting with microdosing and small amounts, but I think we may go a long way if you're categorized or, writing all this down that, let's see if the brain, the work of the GLP-1 on your attitude or feelings of you wanting to binge help. Like if they go away, I think we got our answer. But if they're still there, and even if you're losing some weight, then maybe it's not the perfect solution, if that makes sense.
All right. Is that it? Are we short and sweet today?
I think we are.
All right. Well, there will be more to follow. We look so forward to being with you, and thank you for following our story. Thank you, Mike, for being here. Karen, thank
Thanks for
you.
having me. Love
Thank
being
you.
part of this. Okay.
All right, guys. Take care.
Okay.